So the Novablast 4 just came out, but we had to wait over a year from it since the Novablast 3 was released, and in the meantime, Nike released a big brother to the Novablast, which is the Superblast. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you my first impressions of the Novablast 4, as well as comparing it to the Novablast 3 and the Superblast to find out which is the best blast. Before we get into the video though, I do want to just say that ASICS provided these shoes to me for review, but they're not paying me. They didn't ask me to make this video. They're all my own thoughts. So anyways, let's dive into the specs. The Novablast 4 has a stack height of 41.5 millimeters in the heel, 33.5 in the forefoot, with an 8 millimeter heel to toe drop. The weight gets increased a little bit to 9.1 ounces. The price is still $140, and I put this in the daily trainer category. Now let's go ahead and talk about what's new in the shoe overview. The upper is an engineered woven knit mesh that uses the same tongue as the Superblast and now has that little elf heel on the Achilles. The midsole switches from Flight Foam Blast Plus to Flight Foam Blast Plus Eco, and it has a new geometric midsole shape. The outsole has improved grip and durability with its Ahar-Low rubber material. Moving on to the fit of the Novablast 4, I thought it fit great. The length was perfect, true to size. I didn't have too much excess width. It was nice and roomy, no rubbing, no heel slip, nice midfoot lockdown. So definitely go true to size, or if you had the Novablast 3, I found that the same size works for both of those. Now getting into my ride and my first impressions of the shoe, my very first run in the shoe, it still had that familiar springiness of the Novablast, but I did notice that the shoe kind of felt a little bit firmer overall. I think one of the main things I noticed is that the forefoot still seemed to have that same bounce as the previous version, but the heel felt a little bit firmer, but with that it also felt a lot more stable back there as well. Another thing I did notice is that for some reason it feels like there's more foam underneath the foot, even though there's not. Even when I put this shoe on in the Novablast 3 on the other foot, it felt like this one had more cushion. I don't know if it's because my Novablast 3 is just so worn out at this point, but I did like that in the Novablast 4 because for the Novablast 3 on my longer runs, I was wishing it had more underfoot, a little extra protection, and I got that feeling on the Novablast 4. Again, something a little weird, but I thought I would just point it out. I'd say though, overall, I am really liking the Novablast 4. It has a much better upper in my opinion, and the midsole still gives you that Novablast springiness, but maybe just a little bit firmer, a little bit more stable. I will say after my initial run, I've gotten around close to 30 miles on it now, and it has softened up just a little bit in the heel, and I'm liking it more and more each run. The outsole I have found to be a little grippier. It's not a huge change, but I think hopefully that will help with some durability. But let's go ahead and see how it compares to the Novablast 3 and the Superblast. So comparing the Novablast 4 to the Novablast 3, there are some main differences. Like I talked about the uppers, I wasn't a big fan of the laces or the tongue on the Novablast 3, so that's a big improvement on the Novablast 4. The midsole, it uses the regular Flight Foam Blast Plus on this shoe compared to the Flight Foam Blast Plus Eco on the V4. And I think that does change the feel of the shoe a little bit. I think another contributing factor to that as well is the midsole like origami shape. It kind of changes each version, and I feel like that kind of changes the ride of the shoe along with it. But I think with that Flight Foam Blast Plus on the V3, it felt a little more spongy, a little more bouncy, and I think that's especially true in the heel. And while I did feel it felt more stable than versions 1 and 2, it's definitely not as stable as V4, where it's a little firmer in the heel, but definitely a lot more stable back there. Overall, I think that they're both great shoes, but I think that the Novablast 3 I enjoyed using more for everyday training and recovery days, while I like the Novablast 4 better for everyday running plus long runs, and even some up-tempo efforts as well. Now moving on to the Superblast. This shoe has a much higher stack height. It's got 45 millimeters, so an extra 3.5 or so millimeters there. But the main difference is it uses majority of Flight Foam Turbo, their high-end flagship foam, with a little bit of Flight Foam Blast Plus on the bottom to stabilize it, make it a little more durable. And despite having an extra stack height, this foam is a lot lighter, so this shoe is actually quite a bit lighter than the Novablast 4. One thing that I really like about the Superblast is its versatility. It's one of those shoes where if you're going on a trip and only have room for one pair of running shoes, you can throw this one on and know it will cover all your run types. While it may not necessarily be my favorite 100% for easy day runs, it still has that super foam in there and high cushion, so it does help your legs recover, and it has that nice responsive bounce when you're picking up the pace. But comparing it to the Novablast 4, I'd say the Novablast 4 feels a lot more similar to the Superblast than it does to the Novablast 3. It kind of feels like a Superblast Junior in a way, in the sense that its versatility and its run types, where neither of these are 100% my favorite for recovery days, although it can handle them well. But I do like the other versatility aspects where you can pick up the pace or just put them on long runs or just your everyday mileage. One big difference between these two is the price. This one comes in at $140, while the Superblast is $200. So picking between these two, I think it kind of depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for that super foam experience, like a super trainer, and you're okay with that $200 price tag, I do really like the Superblast. But if you don't necessarily need that super foam, you want something a little more traditional, then definitely go with the Novablast 4. So now we've looked at the Novablast 4, the 3, and the Superblast. Which one is the best blast? And unfortunately, I like them all. I don't think there's a clear answer, but I will try and help you. So if you're looking for a shoe that's maybe a little bouncier, a little softer, and is on sale right now, you should check out the Novablast 3. If you want a super versatile shoe that's a little more stable in the heel, go with the Novablast 4. And if you're looking for a Novablast, but you want the benefits of a super foam and that extra stack height, looking more along the lines of a super trainer, go ahead and get the Superblast. So like I said, I am really enjoying the Novablast 4, and it's not like I'm missing the Novablast 3 and then going back to that. I think it's a good replacement. I do, however, think that some Novablast 3 fans will be divided on this shoe. Some will really love it, others might, stockpile the Novablast 3s. But I do think that this is a good gateway shoe into the Superblast as well. They're kind of going along the more similar veins in my opinion. Anyways, I want to hear from you. Which blast are you picking up and why? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep on running.